Often we play games and have these funny, crazy, exciting moments that we love telling people about. Less often than that, sometimes we'll have these unforgettable moments or unforgettable games that we love telling stories about for the rest of our lives. And I think we chase those moments as gamers. But even more rare and even more special than that are moments or games that shape who we are, that take on a significance within our lives, maybe that we never expected, that become such an integral part of our life and our identity. Today, I want to share a story about one of those games for myself. Up to this point, I think the most significant game, and how that experience taught me about the importance of my own mental health and how games play a part in that. Welcome to Corner Case. You're in the sappy corner. I'm your host, your shoulder to cry on, your best friend, Deck. We don't always know why an experience is important or how important an experience is while we are going through it. The year was 2019. It was the winter time, the last year of the before times. And my friends and I had just come off of a 3-year Edge of Empire campaign. We wanted to play a different game. I'll name people by character names. Gale Savage and GM were really interested in playing City of Mist. I had not played that game before. I kind of knew it was like the cool thing of 2017 or whenever the Kickstarter came out. Either way, I was open-minded. One of our players had relocated to like another state, and so we were looking to fill the roster. I pulled my friend Eric Polos, who was always interested in RPGs. We had played, I think it was Dialect together. Dialect, super fun, but they had never been in like a long campaign before, and that's kind of what we were planning here. So we filled out the roster there. The setting was this contemporary, modern day high school for supers kind of thing. We called it Sanjana Preparatory Day School or Sanjana Prep. After 2 session zeros, here's the roster. First, obviously, there's myself. I play Tim Toozer Lee. He is a competitive cyclist. Personally, I wanted to play the combat character and the meathead, but like sideways. So he's a speedster. His mythos is Hermes. He rides a bike, and he's just really dumb. Like, that's my escapism. I'm just so smart in real life, so I just escape to being stupid. Then, probably one of the more colorful characters in the group, Eric Polos. So just this super repressed kid, head of the Mindful Spirituality Club. His mother is just living her best life, and his father is absent. His mythos is Eros or Cupid, so y'all know what that means. Then there's Gale Savage, the de facto leader of the group, ghost hunter extraordinaire and designated hitter. Her uncle PK is a private eye, a PI, and he's trying to take down the mob. And her mythos is Charon, the ferryman of the river Styx. So her baseball bat like turns into an oar, which is sick. We've got Ashyaji. He's, I think Yog-Sothoth, if I'm not wrong, is his mythos. He has this crazy power to like manipulate images, go into pictures and like read the history of like what happened in that moment. Just like all around crazy dude. One time we all went into like our mythos forms, and well, one of these things is not like the others. And then last but not least, we've got Veronica Winmore, heir to the Credmore Corporation, and just like way too cool, way too rich and popular for our group. Her mythos is Hera, and one day she will be the student body president. So we played like a prelude session and like a handful of games, but as we all know, shortly afterwards the pandemic hit and we switched over to Discord. Y'all can already see that I've been able to share a lot of illustrations from our game up to this point, and that's kind of what it was like. So up until this point, every game that I had been in, I was like the only illustrator, but with Eric Polos in the mix, we're both designers, we both like illustrating, so all of a sudden, let me tell you, when you have multiple illustrators in a group, oh my goodness. So especially back then, I think everyone thought the pandemic was gonna end like within the year. So I feel like we all kind of quietly made these pandemic goals. So for me, I was like, all right, I'm just gonna work on my illustration chops. I'm gonna come out of this a full-blown illustration guy. And so in between sessions, it felt like almost every day, either me or Eric Polos were posting images of just like our illustrations in the Discord chat. Oh my goodness, you name it. If it's NPCs, if it's like moments in the game that were memorable, if it was even just like a costume change. I'm really big on costume changes in the middle of the game. All of those would just be flushed out in illustrations, and it became this like super cool, real-time, collaborative, and constant world building just within our group. So already, I think the pandemic had a really positive effect on our gameplay in terms of all of a sudden we had the time and the emotional resources to dedicate to just making this world together so real. We even created this K-pop group inside of the game called the Perfect City Boys, and oh my goodness, so we did a one-shot where we played as them, and they also played a part in one of the boss battles, and we got to play as ourselves and them. So that was just like super cool. I think my guy was named like Ji Pyong. You'll see him on the screen right here. He's got the full-blown Jerry curls. Perfect City Boys. Our group was super into playing the character development game, and working with GM was just crazy rewarding because he had all these great ideas for places to take our characters, and we were super into developing our characters, so we'd take those situations and just really think about like what would our character do. And there were moments where it was tough emotionally to actually like face some of those situations, but we were vulnerable with each other. There was such a trust and such a vulnerability within our group to test drive those feelings, to test drive those situations outside of our real lives and inside of this game. And I think that was kind of the most beautiful thing I hadn't really experienced before. No matter what vision GM had for the way the place this story was going, we had full trust that however it was going to culminate was going to be so great. And we were just enjoying every second of doing that together. I think it's clear that we all invested so much in the game, into our characters, and into each other. And that was really special. During that time, I almost never missed a session. I was super disciplined about making sure that that Thursday for 3 hours after work was as much as possible, like uninterrupted. I was focused. I wasn't thinking about anything else. I was really committed. But that all stopped in like last summer, 2021, when I had this feeling that I needed to do more for myself. There were projects, there were a couple things that I needed to do that needed more time. And I decided that this was the place where I was going to take it from. So in retrospect, I had this internal struggle myself, and I made my own choice, and then I told them my choice. But I think in retrospect, I actually would have done things a little differently. I would have told them what I was feeling, what I wanted to accomplish. I would have collaborated with them in terms of how we wanted to move forward, because I think the way I handled it was a little selfish at this point. So I told them how I was feeling and what my choice was, and of course everyone was a little bummed out, but you know, they accepted it, and ultimately we just actually decided to call a hiatus. Over the next few months, I poured myself into my projects, the things I told myself I was gonna do. And because my time wasn't always super structured, sometimes on those Thursday nights, I might actually just end up working longer on my work stuff. And very quickly, I started to realize, you know, 2 or 3 months in, like, oh my God, my mental health is really suffering. I wasn't as interested in things. I was a lower energy level. I was just straight up having breakdowns sometimes. And when I think about it now, it's so obvious what happened. I hadn't realized it at the time, but at some point, my Sanjana prep crew, that group of friends became my closest friends. During the pandemic, they were the only people I saw and spent time with outside of my own wife. I didn't really see my parents, you know, it felt risky to see my parents that often. So that 3 hours a week, that was the only time that I had set aside in the whole week just for myself, for fun, to have social time with people that I feel vulnerable and I trust. And I replaced all of that with grinding, just more grinding. So of course my mental health was gonna suffer. I thought I was doing myself right by giving myself the time to work on these things that I thought I owed myself. But I think the opposite is true. In retrospect, I would have taken the time out of somewhere else. I would have made time somewhere else. But I realized now that that time was actually sacred. We were building something really awesome creatively together, and that type of magic, that type of lightning doesn't always strike. And because it's something that comes out of collaborating as a group of people, you can never predict when that type of thing is going to happen. So what I know now is that if I ever have that type of experience again, I think I would recognize how special it is a little bit sooner. And I think I would cherish it a little bit differently. You know, in the grand scheme of things, 3 hours a week for that constant, real-time, creative world building, that relationship forming, that working on my skills, all of those things that were enriching my life for such a small amount of time. I think about it differently now because of this experience. Growing up in an Asian American household, mental health is not something that we talked about at all. We didn't have the vocabulary for it. And I hesitate to say that in some cases it was stigmatized. So, you know, I think I was neither here nor there on the subject in the last like 5 years of my life. But because of this experience, I really now understand that it's something I have to proactively take care of. I have to take care of myself. And games are actually a really big part of that. People are a really big part of that. I hope if you have these types of experiences that you feel comfortable sharing them with us, either in the comments below or on our Facebook page. If this is a topic that you've been struggling with personally, then, you know, I hope that my story here helps you give form, give shape to the feelings that you're having. They're valid, and you should take care of yourself. And sometimes games are a part of that, and traditionally games don't seem like a productive activity, but they can have such a big impact beyond what you think that they would. The group and I still play once a month, but obviously we're never gonna recreate exactly that magic that happened in the first year and a half of the game. I think we all love and respect each other enough that we're gonna see this through, that we all feel committed to ourselves, our characters, the game, this thing that we created together, that this intangible, this world that no one else knows except us. I'm linking Eric Polis's Instagram below, so if you enjoyed their artwork throughout this video, then please give them a like and a follow. Otherwise, empathize with us over on the Facebook. Thank you so much for swinging by. Please like and subscribe. We're always desperate, and we'll see you next time.
Please like and subscribe. We've been through enough.